For a century and a half, 150,000 Aboriginal children were forcibly taken from their families and put into residential schools. They were taken to assimilate them into white European society in order to kill the Indian in the child. Aboriginal students were subjected to sexual, physical, emotional, and psychological abuse. Thousands of students died in residential schools, from tuberculosis, the Spanish flu, malnutrition, suicide, accidents such as drowning, fire or exposure, or running away from the schools. It wasn't until 1996 that the last school closed. Today, we see and we acknowledge what has happened. Today, it matters.
It matters as a Canadian because the work of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission is both delicate and important, and it matters that I support its efforts.
It matters as a Canadian because I believe that Natives have suffered a lot of persecution, injustice and neglect. The time has come for leaders and government officials to sit together and find a lasting solution to the problems of Aboriginals related with education, housing, water, health and social problems. Symbolic gestures and rules cannot solve the problems and uplift the socio-economic standards of Natives.
It matters as a Canadian because I believe as a citizen I have a responsibility to better the surroundings I'm in. What has happened to the Aboriginal people is a sad part of Canadian history. We have a responsibility to learn their story. We cannot be complacent.
It matters as a Canadian because we have to understand our history, our entire history. The Indian residential school era represents one of our darkest chapters. But by looking at it with courage and honesty, we will better understand the magnitude of the struggle that not only Aboriginal communities face, but we as Canadians all face. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada provides us the opportunity to be an example for other communities and countries.
It matters as a Canadian Unitarian because the foundation of a healthy community is trust and respect. The history of Aboriginal First Nations is a continuing series of treaty disputes with Canadian federal and provincial governments. First Nations' lack of trust is understandable. So, going forward into the future, it is important to start practicing respect for all members of the Canadian community, especially the First Nations.
It matters as a Canadian because as a psychiatric nurse in this country, many of my patients were greatly impacted by their experiences in residential schools. My heart hurt for my patients. Their trauma is very deep and long-lasting.
It matters as a Canadian because there needs to be a paradigm shift in the way we think about Indigenous people. In Canada, there's a tendency to fall back on preconceived ideas and stereotypes. We also learn more about the history of Nazi Germany and slavery than we do about what happened in our own country. We need to acknowledge and accept responsibility for what has taken place within our own borders. I am Canada. What happened here is a part of my history. The stories must be told. The truth must be heard.
It matters as a Canadian because we are a nation that upholds the principles of a just society.
It's mind-boggling that new immigrants have more opportunities than Aboriginals who have been here since before Canada was formed.
It matters as a Canadian because if we want an integral, united society, we need to embrace our diversity. We need to support each other. We need to hold each other up. And we need to do it all together. And now is the time.
It matters as a Canadian because this is an opportunity to tell the truth and shed a light on dark and ugly experiences with courage, integrity, and honesty. Until you cleanse them, it's not possible to heal wounds that run so deep. We cleanse our deepest pain by sharing our truths with others, and it is in the cleansing of this pain that we lay a foundation for a new way forward to build a resilient country.